Just talked to a religious scholar, so let's move to someone who I absolutely adore. Frode in Norway.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, brother.
Hello.
Did I say it right?
Almost.
Oh, God damn it. So, Frode?
Yes.
Yeah, that was it?
Yeah, almost.
Fuck. All right, fine. Frode, this is Geoff. Geoff, Frode.
Hi, Frode.
Hello.
What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I haven't called back for a little while because I had a change of heart and I moved from theist to atheist. It's been a hard road. I'm not going to lie. There's still things I'm stuck in doing now that I see stupid. The other day I prayed, for example. I still have a tendency to what should I do things I know that is not rationally what I have become, but I still do them because it feels right or it feels comforting. So yeah. I kind of want to talk a little about how that is and how to quit doing things I was used as doing as a theist now that I don't look at myself as a theist.
Okay. So, number one, there's no deity that is going to smite you for praying after you realize that prayer doesn't work.
Right.
In fact, yeah, so if, number one, a lot of people actually convert to mindfulness meditation and things like that. But the fact is that in time, it's not going to feel as good. It won't have that same, effectiveness that you're used to. But that's okay. That's okay. The process after you leave religion. When I left, I didn't know where to land. I had no idea what to do. I didn't know how to account for morals. I didn't know, I was like, well, then what about hell? What happens after I die? Is it all meaningless? There was this whole nihilism and there are all of these things stacked up. On top of that, there were these landmines. So when my grandma passed away, I didn't just have to mourn her, but I got to mourn everyone else that I had convinced myself I was going to get to see again. And all of the regret and pain of that was devastating. And so, Frode, the reason I'm bringing these things up is because it takes time. And there's not a wrong way to do it. And nobody's going to call the atheist police to pull your atheist card. I mean, in time, what you need to be mindful of is how you can replace some of those things that you've come to depend on, right? So, why do you want to be a good person? Well, being a good person for being a good person's sake is a pretty damn good reason, right? Taking the time to meditate, right? Taking time to yourself to think about a thing, and to calm yourself down is a wonderful thing that you can do. Don't just leave it for nothing. But in time, those are things that you can try. Does that help?
I think what I find most irritating, though, is that when I do it, I usually go like amen or something like that, and it's like it's kind of a weird assassination, but it's almost like masturbating. When you come, you're more calm, you're more satisfied, you're more like your pulse is kind of like lower because you had some
which is why Talk Heathen is pro-masturbation.
That's right.
Absolutely. Secular sexuality actually ends their show with saying, go give yourself an orgasm, or find somebody and give, consensually give them an orgasm. It's fantastic. Yeah, no, totally. That's okay.
But it is kind of the same thing in the way that I do it, because I feel like
I'm not sure we need to know how you go about it.
Hey, I might not want to take notes.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, but I feel relieved when I am done praying. That's my point. And I find that irritating, because I know I'm praying to a false god, and therefore it's like, when I'm done with it, I feel like I'm almost betraying myself in praying to a god that I don't believe in. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes. And I have something to say, but you go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, I had a similar experience when I was in high school. You know, I was an out atheist, but, you know, I hadn't read, you know, philosophy or anything like that. I wasn't as, I don't know, solid in my understanding of the arguments and that kind of thing. And there was this girl at high school that I really liked, and I made a deal with God that in case there's a God, I'm going to hedge my bets and say, you know, I'll refrain from this thing that the book says is a sin, and if I do that, then, you know, when I ask her out, she'll say yes. And then I proceeded to do the sin, and we went out anyway. So.
So well, and this can be very empowering, Frode, because if you don't believe now, if you don't believe that God exists, do you think that God existed when you prayed to that God before?
No.
So if that God didn't exist at the time then either, that means that what you were able to change, what you were able to affect by praying, you can still do, because that power was yours the entire time.
But isn't it hypocritical to pray to a God that you don't believe in, though? Isn't that kind of a hypocritical thing to do?
So in time, like I said, it's going to lose its veneer. It's not going to stand up forever, which is why I'm saying that keep in mind that there are other things that you can do to help, because eventually it's not going to feel so good. But in the meantime, we're not judging you, man.
Yeah, and praying is really in nothing more than introspection and meditation, which have beneficial, you know, aspects. One of the nefarious things about religion is that they monopolize that and say you can't experience these calming effects without making it a prayer to a higher power. And I imagine as you know, as you develop, you know, the skills outside of the religious context, that the prayer aspect, the higher power part of your, you know, mindfulness will drop away entirely on its own. Everyone has a process, and, you know, you do you.
Yeah, man. In the meantime, I hope you know that the people in the live chat and the people online on our social media, on Facebook, on Discord, on Reddit, there are so many people who've written in, emailed, and said that they are so happy for you. I hope you know that where you are, you got so much love, man, including the people in the back. The people in the back have told me over and over, we've talked about you, because we're happy for you. We're happy that, you know, you are taking this next step, and it's a scary one, but it's one that focuses on what's true. And
no, and it's something I talked to my dad about the other day, and to be completely honest, my parents has not taken this in a good way. Sorry, I'm trying to keep my calm, but
it's okay. Take your time.
My dad is maybe the hardest when it comes to religion, because he is really active in his Pentecostal church. And some of my fears of of what we talked about before about ambivalence comes from him, and I see myself in him in so many ways. And when I told him that I didn't believe in God, he said something really awful to me that I felt like was about awful thing to say, and he said that me and God is disappointed in you, and I felt like
yeah. No, I get it, man.
Getting the feedback like that gets you so damn down.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you feel like a hypocrite going around not saying what you believe. But for example, like I know that Christmas this year is going to be so much different because he now sees it as his agenda to bring me back to the field. Like he looks at me as this lost sheep.
Yeah.
And instead of seeing that I am now liberated, he thinks that I am stuck in hell. So he doesn't look at me as liberated. He looks like at me as a fallen one. And I think that's maybe one of the hardest things to see and hear, the disappointment from people around you that has been so important in your life.
Yeah. So,
but then standing there and like saying but I don't believe. Like that's it's like I said, it hasn't been easy. It just have been worth it because I feel like I don't have the hesitations that I did before. I live my life to the fullest, where I felt before I was trapped in this ongoing thing of what will God think if I lose the spoon on the floor? Now, when I lose the spoon on the floor, guess what? I pick it up instead.
Yeah. So
there's a difference between those two things.
Yeah. I think in my experience, there are a lot of people, especially people who are really, really into the church, who equate the word atheist with a lot more than not believing.
Oh, yeah.
And so there are a lot of people who stood up and said, Mom, Dad, or family, or whoever they're talking to, I don't believe anymore, or I'm an atheist. Even though that's what they said, what the family member hears is, I don't want to be involved in your life anymore, or
right.
I don't care about you, I don't love you the same way, or I don't want to be involved, or I don't want to interact with you anymore. There are all of these. There's all this baggage that comes with the words atheist or non-believer or secular. Oh my gosh, that was a really bad one. You know, I actually used to equate that with Satan. You know, it wasn't not religious. It was absolutely out the other end, Satan.
Right.
You know, and so I think over time, what I would suggest that you do, you have already indicated to us that you are a loving son. And what's going to help that situation is by continuing to be a loving son, right? A lot of those reactions are based on fear.
Oh, yeah.
It's fear of losing your child. It's fear of your child wanting to split away from you or to condemn you. And in reality, it sounds like not only do you care, but you want to be able to share these things about your life with your father. And given time, he's going to see that you're still the son that he knows. But it's going to take those experiences happening, and it's going to feel rough. But you know that when you made this decision, that didn't change the way that you feel about your loved ones. It had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, you just have to show him that you're the same Frode. I'm sorry, this is the first time I'm trying to get my mouth around your name.
Call me Frode.
You're the same Frode you've always been.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just like I think I feel even worse for praying, because like I have a little like voice in my head saying like, see, your father is right, you haven't quit religion, you're still praying.
But you know that's not true. And
no, I know it's not true, but it's almost like the devil on the shoulder, like saying, haha, look at yourself, you haven't moved on. I feel like moving on when you have such a strong relationship with someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad has always been my closest friend, and we have I think we have a father-son relationship that I haven't seen in many people, and I felt it changed because of this. Like now he worries about me. He asks me every time like we if I try to talk about another topic, it's impossible because he's so afraid of me getting to hell. Like he's so afraid that I will end up in a place where he's not able to have a family with me.
Yeah.
And I understand his fear, because that's one of the things that was bringing me to not leaving theism, was the hell fear. But when I decided that wasn't a strong enough argument for me to keep on holding on to what I did.
Mm-hmm. The way that you just encapsulated that is just leaving me speechless, because I feel like there are so many people, myself included, who can relate to that. And man, I love that you called. I really do. Give it time. Give it time. And the time may come that your dad wants to open up and talk more about it. And if that happens, know that you don't have to change his mind all at once. You know, you have an entire lifetime to be able to have this. And I think the most important thing to do right now is to reassure him that you're still his son. And hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as your if I understood correctly, he feels, or you think that he may feel that you're taking yourself from him and depriving him of part of his family, and again, I think be there for him and be the family member that you've always been, but also, to the extent, in my head, at least, I applied that to the afterlife. And, to show him that you're still a good person, and maybe he can get to a place, where he can rationalize, well, he's a good person, he may not believe in Jesus or what have you, but he's, still worthy of joining me in the afterlife or that kind of thing. I don't know if that's exactly where you were going with that sentiment, but that was the thought that occurred to me.
I actually had
along.
I had a really heartfelt moment with a friend who's a very firm Christian, and we were having drinks, and it was late, and he was telling me how much he wants to bring me back to Christ. And the time came that he said, and he started to tear up, and he said, I don't want you to go to hell. And I remember I asked him, I looked at him, and I acknowledged first. I said, what you just told me is that you love me. After that, would you feel bad in heaven knowing that I was in hell? And he said, yes.
That's the central paradox of heaven.
Yeah. How would that be paradise if you knew that I wasn't there.
Either there's a facsimile of you there, or he's living eternity with the knowledge that you're suffering for eternity.
Exactly.
And in turn, he's suffering for eternity. And now we're in the good place. And
which you should watch. That entire thing, we started to get into that. Would you become an automaton if you went to heaven? Because otherwise you'd feel terrible for all the people who aren't there with you, right? And after that, it did have an impact, and the impact was a good one. And where we went after that, everywhere we went after that, I got to carry with me that in his way, he told me he loves me. And I understand that it's coming from a weird place of reasoning, but I mean, there have been times where I've been going through really hard times in my life, and there's somebody who says, I'll pray for you. And while it may seem, some people, when they say it, I know that they're thinking, I'm going to do the best that I think that I can to help you. And that's another way of saying I love you. Not always. Sometimes it's just condescending and shitty.
Depends on the tone.
Yeah, but you can tell sometimes, And so it's okay to acknowledge. But
that's one of the things that I tried to make clear to him was that my belief has changed, but he's still my dad, and I love him, and then hearing back that, well, I love you too, but I'm disappointed in you. It's like, ooh.
That's an awfully big but. I cannot lie.
Just that sir.
I'm ashamed. I'm done for the day.
All right, Sir Mix-a-Lot. No, that was good. That was really good. So I totally get it. Just unfortunately, in a time when we wish that it could be solved right now, it's going to take time. And in the meantime, you have so much more love coming to you that you have no idea, my friend. I hope someday that you can come to Austin so we can meet you.
Just pay for my plane ticket. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I wish I could turn this camera around and show you the teeny tiny building we're in. It is, Geoff, were you expecting a bigger building when you got here?
Well, I'd seen photos, so I knew exactly what to expect.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. We're basically broadcasting out of a broom closet, but we're doing the best we can with that broom closet. So
it's a great broom closet.
It really is.
Yeah. But I have a question, and then I will leave you. Do you have any good ideas of how I can still be a great son for my dad and try to get him to talk less about hell, because it's kind of it's starting to get to me that he talks so much about hell.
Sure.
I tried to tried to ask him to respect my views, but he's like, but your views is not good because it will not bring you to where I am. I understand.
It's going to take him some time. I mean, regardless of what advice we give, he kind of has to get there on his own.
Yeah.
But you can certainly ease the way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the advice that I would give is one that I've heard other people say, and that is be honest and open. Say, when you talk about this, it hurts me because of this reason, right? It doesn't hurt me because I'm afraid of hell. It hurts me because I care about my dad, just be open, be real. And I don't think I need to give you advice on how to be a good son. You sound like a great one.
Yeah, you clearly care about your father. What kinds of, certainly you had conversations before this shift in your viewpoint that weren't about religion. Go on your own. Go back and revisit those talk about soccer. Talk about football. Sorry to use an Americanism, but talk about the things that you used to talk about, and you'll be doing two things. You'll be changing the subject or preventing maybe him from getting onto the subject, and also showing him that you're still the same son he had 2 months ago.
Yeah. But I got some messages from the back. The first is that it says, Frode is getting so much love in the chat. Can you make sure he knows?
Thank you.
And then the next one says, tell Frode he is getting all the hugs in the chat, and people want to know where Geoff got his shirt. Okay, never mind. We'll leave that one. And I actually, and you're getting love rings right now. As always, man, you are one of my favorite people.
Thank you.
I hope you take care and keep in touch. All right, brother?
I will.
All right. Bye-bye.
I am quite certain that the people back at my office have already clipped me saying, get my mouth around Frode, and that I am going to be haunted by that clip.
Okay, so there's something that I actually really, really, really need to bring up.